basically, there are lots of people having similar things. The difference with ADHD is it has a detrimental effect on your life. And so when it does, in different periods of your life, like the menopause or when you have your first child, these are times where it's really common for women to be diagnosed, if they are, because suddenly definitely hormones have a part to play, but suddenly you're managing you and to as best as you can, and now suddenly there's 3 of you or 4 of you,
overwhelming,
and then suddenly it's just a tsunami of everything, of not being able to organize.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show, but first please do like this video and subscribe to the channel, and also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health, and I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show. And you're welcome back to the Empowering Family Health podcast. Today on the show, I have the wonderful Jo Richards. Really excited about this conversation we're going to have all about ADHD. But let me first read out Jo's bio so you will get an idea of who Jo is. So Jo is an ADHD happiness life coach and mentor. And Jo describes ADHD from the inside out because her purpose is to raise awareness, really, really important, and really so that people can expand their knowledge and really easily recognize the signs and the symptoms and the causes of ADHD. And through this awareness, people can build better relationships with themselves and the people they serve, work with, or love. And most people will know somebody who has ADHD, but don't actually recognize it. So Jo is going to really help us to be able to recognize all these signs. And after years of not being able to understand herself why she felt the way she did, she struggled and found things extremely challenging. And Jo finally realized that she had ADHD at the age of 47. Now, in this conversation with Jo, we're going to be talking about what are examples of ADHD traits. And Jo believes by knowing these traits and the benefits of knowing who we truly are, it releases these negative thoughts that something is wrong with us. And it also helps people to know that there are others out there who have the same challenges, unlimited strengths, or even superpowers. And sadly, a staggering 9 out of 10 women are misdiagnosed with depression or anxiety, and they're put on the wrong medication that does more harm than good. And ADHD is one of the most misunderstood and undiagnosed brain disorders in the world. And so many people are needlessly suffering because of a lack of knowledge. And now is the time to be ADHD aware, so that any further needless suffering can be stopped. Jo, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I love talking about ADHD. It's obviously my favourite subject. And it's really good to get the awareness out there. I think it's been so long misunderstood. So it's really lovely to have that opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's so great to have you on, Jo, to share your own experience. You're going to share that with us now in just a moment. And I think it takes a lot of courage as well. So I just want to acknowledge you for being here and really thank you for being here. And because it does take a lot of courage to share from your own experience. And obviously you're not a medical doctor per se, but we're going to share your experiences and some of the research that you've found and you've applied to your own life as well to really help empower people that, you know, there's a lot that they can do. So let's start with your own journey. Let's start with what life was like before you realized you had ADHD up to the time that you were actually diagnosed.
So it was fun. It still is fun. So what I've done over the years is created so many strategies because out of necessity, because what I was doing was leaving things to the last minute. And what I obviously didn't realize was that I was getting a dopamine hit. I would lose things. I would walk into a room and not understand why I was there. I would constantly lose my keys. One day I actually lost my keys, and I was working for EasyJet years ago as an airline crew, and they actually applauded me when I finally arrived and found my keys. I lived in a 2-bedroom flat. I don't know why I couldn't find them. So it was just like inventing strategies, putting things in place. And I called myself Dory the Fish, obviously just trying to have a humorous side to things.
I love her.
And why I couldn't, remember things. I can't remember most of my childhood. When I was pregnant, I have to ring my sister and ask her things like, did I have chicken pox when I was little, or the measles? And she'd have to relay the information so that I could give it to the doctor. And ironically, the doctor never, at that point, because so many GPs aren't aware about ADHD, didn't think that maybe I was quite a young person, not able to recall a lot of information, that maybe something might have been going on with my brain. So yeah, there's lots of people to educate and help recognize the signs and symptoms.
And forgetfulness is a really big one, just little things, and you think you're going insane. You think you're losing your mind, and that's a big fear that a lot of people have.
Yeah, and I've done so much research. I actually believed I was vitamin B12 deficient. So I was like on the phone in tears to the doctors saying, could you please give me, I hate injections, but could I have an injection? They wouldn't do it. Luckily, I did find a really good vitamin, did loads of research, and I took that, and within minutes, it was fixing that part of my problem. Not long term, but at the time I had huge amounts of brain fog, and I also just leaving the front door key in the front door, so it was having a ramp, like let the burglar come in. I thankfully never forgot my children or anything really important, but I think that was actually more signs of the premenopause compounded with acute ADHD, so that all of it swimming around in the same soup. I was worried. I thought it was early set dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's a really big fear, because those numbers are really growing. The dementia, those neurodegenerative diseases, that's definitely a big one. And so you were 47 when you were diagnosed. So obviously this is in the midlife years, if you like, combined with perimenopause, menopause. So there's a lot going on in a woman's body. So tell us when you were actually diagnosed. What was that like?
So I'm self-diagnosed. I'm still going through the diagnostic process. I'm working with the head of the NHS, the clinical psychiatrist here in Bristol, and that is an ongoing process that we're going through at the moment. I went down a slightly untraditional route of finding out for myself. I believe you more than anybody else knows you. You are the expert on you. And I didn't look at ADHD because of the misconception that it's a naughty little boy bouncing off the walls, really difficult behavior to manage. Yeah. And ironically, my son came down the stairs and he'd seen something on TikTok. And the writing had been on the wall for many years, but he said, can I do an ADHD test? And I looked at him and I said, for why? And he was like, I think I might have it. And I was like, okay, just to like let him explore and do his thing. So we went on, we found an online test, he did it, and he was off the scale. And I wasn't ready to process that, because that's also another ADHD thing. It takes a while to process this new thing going on. And so I said, oh no, it's a screenshot. And he went, oh, so I haven't got it then. I said, no, I don't think you have. And so off he went, skipping away, happy, thinking, okay.
And how old was he?
He was 11.
11, yeah, okay.
11. And so I then went on and did the test, and I was just under him. And I was like, okay. So that's what started opening up I need to look at this and process it. I was actually with a friend on a webinar with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. We were doing Project Next, which for the weekend for our businesses. And a coach came on, amazing lady, and so I'd done the test, and kind of I kept going, there's something about this, but I didn't know what it is. And my brain, our brains are computers, I'm going, okay, I need some answers to this, and I was looking for them. And she did an amazing speech, and literally I looked at my friend and said, we've got ADHD, haven't we? And she was like, you so have. So I was like, you need to take the test. So she took the test and she was off the scale. And we were like, oh my gosh. And we were like literally dancing around her office going, oh my gosh, that's the missing link. That's the puzzle bit. That's the bit that we needed to find out. And then went into hyper focus, did about another 6 tests. And literally spent the next couple of months on voice note to each other going, found this, look at this, and we just literally hyper focused. And it was from that moment forward, I knew in my heart of hearts that this is what I needed to be talking about. This is what I need to be helping.
There's something about knowing, having the diagnosis and knowing, because before then you're wandering around in this mass of not knowing and wondering and thinking that there's something wrong with you. Whereas when you have the diagnosis, at least you understand the mechanisms of it and what you can put in place and what you can be aware of and recognize.
But the amazing thing was I had so many strategies in place, but I hadn't realized why. And that was the big thing I let go of.
Wow.
Luckily for me, everyone deals with it differently. My friend had a lot of guilt. And a lot of, my gosh, my life could have been different, because most of us ADHDers never quite fulfill our potential. And we kind of know we can. So we don't know what this invisible thing is that's blocking us, like this invisible wall. But for me, I was just skipping around going, well, I've got ADHD. And so that's why. And for me, it was just like a revelation and a celebration. I've not really looked back. I've gone, it is just what it is. I believe, I always have, you are where you are for a reason. And that's just part of your lesson and your journey. And that's how I choose to look at everything. And it did, the moment that I realized that negative why, or that negative automatic self chat that goes on, was just released.
Wow.
And what it's done is opened up room for me to just create and just be and just accept, and so much self-love and self-compassion.
Oh my God, I can really hear that. Jo, you're a very bubbly person, and like even just talking to you now, and we've spoke briefly before, and what I'm getting from you, Jo, is that you really believe in having fun, and you call yourself the happiness coach. Why do you believe that is a really important element in all this?
So that's the ironic thing, because I am, and generally have been, I've done self-development since I was, 17, maybe 18, was when I first found out about coaching, self-coaching. And I literally, as soon as the first book I read was The Magic of Thinking Big. And I read it, and the first couple of pages, I was like, oh, there's other people like me. Oh my gosh. And I was just so excited. And so I've always had, so how I describe it, when I was talking about ADHD afterwards with Aidan, my son, I said to him, so it's like fireworks going off in your stomach and popcorn popping in your brain. Wow. And like where the ideas, you're just constantly full of ideas and creativity and And he was like, it's exactly that, Mum. So I know that my daughter also has ADHD. And she has got, every now and then she gets a burst of hyperactivity, and she just she won't stop talking, and she's really going fast. But most of the time she's pretty mellow. Whereas my son is very excitable. He's not naughty. He's funny. He's social. He is bouncing off the walls, but in an energetic way, not in a a naughty behavior. He's getting behavior points at school at the moment because he calls out. He knows the answer and he has to. He just can't not call out. So I'm really trying to, the send at the school is amazing. The school we've got for my children is beyond. But there's still some work to do, and there's still lots of education for the other teachers to understand. So I'm working quite closely with all the teachers, and just reminding them this is the profile of the child that you're with. We all bring our own flavour. We're all completely unique, and that needs to be embraced. And I understand it's a quiet school, so I understand that it's all dealt with respect, and he's not being respectful to his classmates in their thought process because he's calling out and not following the rules of putting your hand up. But there is an element of so what can we put into place for him? So he's got like a white chalkboard now with a pen that rubs out, and he can write the answer down. But he's still really struggling. He's year 7. He's still really struggling because he wants that dopamine hit. He wants that acceptance, and he wants that positive emotion that he's got it right and that they're really proud of him. And he really, that's like dialed up to a 10 for him. So he really has to do that.
You have a boy and a girl, so you have a young boy and a girl, and it's interesting that, you know, you've noticed these differences between the two of them. Is this across the board, do you reckon, with boys and girls? Typically, because everyone's different, obviously.
Everyone is different. So for me personally, whether it's a girl, a boy, a man or woman, I always feel like you've got your own dial. And so you've got comorbidities that come with it too. So if you're thinking about hyperactivity, mine's definitely 10 or off, you know, even higher if it could be. Whereas for my daughter, it might simmer at a 5. And then for my husband, it might simmer at a 2. You know, and so definitely hormones have an impact on these things as well. But that comes with any aspect of what may be going on. So you've got your own personal, I call it a dial, because I think it's a really easy way of explaining it. But so I'm all about creating your own profile. That's some of the work that I've been doing, and helping other people to create their own profile. So it, for argument's sake, I have a bit of OCD. So my OCD shows up that I even pre-COVID, washed my hands a million times a day. And I do have a bit of a germ thing going on. And so I'm not great in restaurants. 1, for the noise of ADHD. 2, someone else has been sat there. I just doesn't feel like a great thing for me. And locks. I have to check the locks at the back of my house about 4 times before I'm able to leave the building, so that I can really know that I've definitely I've checked, they're locked, I can leave. And so, but for my daughter, it will manifest in a different way. She does have a big germ problem. She has a problem with anyone touching her. And so it manifests itself in different ways. So it's about thinking about ADHD, maybe like the core thing. Sometimes you have a bit of autism that can run alongside OCD, RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Never heard of that one. Okay, yeah.
So with that, so for me, that manifests, and also that feeds into what type of job you do. So could you say that again? Sorry, apologies, my
That's okay.
So for my friend, she was also a teammate. It's a different friend that's got ADHD, and so we had like a social selling business, which we still have. And when she discovered she had ADHD, she was like, no wonder, because of the RSD.
There's a sense of relief.
Phone. Yeah, but it's like she couldn't pick up the phone and do the do. So if you're a salesperson with ADHD and RSD and you're trying to pick up the phone to ring people, you are so in the wrong job. It's just, you know, it's just not what you're going against, this invisible thing of why can't I do this? Like, I've never wanted to do telesales. I found myself as a telesales manager once. I set up call centers, and I was like, and I said no to the job, and they were like, yeah, but we want you, and then make, you know, more money. And in the end I went, well, they really want me, I don't like it, but you know. And so I went and I tried, and I did it for about 2 months, and I was like, I'm really sorry, the company's great, you guys are great, the opportunity is great, I just don't like telesales. Well, I didn't know, I was only in my 20s. I didn't know that it's because of RSD, ADHD, and all these other things.
You're so clear about all the different kind of traits. You're really clear, and that's fantastic. And you know, when you apply it to your life, because you've all the different areas of our life, our family, our relationships, the job, the school, and you know, it's really important in all these areas that it's understood, and because that we can adapt in our life in all these different areas, given, you know, all, you know, these traits or whatever, you know. And you're really clear, and I can really hear that it's helping you to get through your day and your children.
Yeah, it does. I think the other thing is I do have, so at the moment, what comes with ADHD, the superpower is the creativity.
Yeah,
the ideas. And so I can see what people can't see. So I can see like the holes in things. So even just in the diagnosis stage, I had to do several phone calls back and forth to the doctors. They didn't know what they were doing. I had to kind of lead the way. And so that made me create an online course that was, and sessions now as well, to help people, one, but build their own profile, because you know you better than they know you. It's no good saying to you, no, you haven't got OCD, because actually out of the 7 traits of OCD, sorry, I'm not sure if it is 7, but you've got 2, and so they don't qualify you as having OCD. When you check blocks and you wash your hands. Yeah. So everyone's individual. It's about creating your personal profile, and also wholeheartedly, as mothers, we are the reporter to every other agency for our children. Yeah. And so we need to be able to create that profile and go, okay, you're the experts. This is what I can see. Yes. And then to know what they are. So in this, I can say to them, Aidan's got RSD. And the reason why I know that is this. And I've already spent the time writing it down and creating that profile. Wow. Because one of the things you do with ADHD is my executive functioning doesn't work. Hence why I went, I'm not sure if it's 7. So it's really hard to recall information. That is the biggest thing that lets us down. ADHD puts a wedge between the back and the front part of the brain. And so that's where medication can help, because it starts to build those neurons and bring the brain function to the right place. So I know we sort of talked about medication before, or kind of like leaned into having that as part of our discussion.
Is that one of the reasons why children, because you talk about the logic, the executive function brain, the conscious brain, whatever, this part of the brain, and the amygdala, the emotional brain, because I know children, it takes a long time for the executive function to develop. Their brains are still mature and up to the age of 24, 25, I believe. So is this one of the reasons why these two parts of the brains don't talk? They're still been developed in children. Is this one of the reasons why there are more numbers in children with ADHD than adults?
So I think for me personally, none of the teachers, I've been going in since reception with Chloe, going, something isn't right. She can't add up. Like when Aidan was 18 months old, and this is like the 2 parallel differences between them. I was trying to do the phononic thing, and that's what we do over here in the UK. I couldn't even do it myself. So I was trying to teach them, and I couldn't even do. And I went to so many lessons with the school trying to get my finger on it, but it just didn't make sense to me. And I've got an interest brain, so it didn't interest me, and it didn't go in, and I couldn't repeat it. But I was trying to do it with Chloe, and we had a title of a book, and it was like and she just couldn't grasp the THE, the sound of the phononic, the trying to. And Aidan just looked up at 18 months and went, it's like, he was so frustrated.
Yeah.
He's got like a photographic memory. He's really, and so, but for Chloe, spellings is even difficult now. So for her, with the inattentive side, that's really prevalent. So I got her to fill in a Connors form yesterday, a self-report one. And you could clearly see she got down about 7 questions, and then and I left her and I came back and had the paperwork afterwards, and I came back and clearly 7 questions down, she'd obviously forgotten that 0 meant not at all and 3 meant yes all the time. And so she'd got the 2 questions wrong, because she was off. She was somewhere else. She was, and then she, oh my God, no, I've got to focus. I've got to bring myself back. I've got to remember what, trying to remember what the answers are, what the numbers mean. And it was just a small form of, do you do this, yes or no, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it can really, be a big deal. I can hear there's a lot of variances. So this is why you're really empowering people to understand their own profile and creating their own profile. I really get that. Yeah. I want to ask you, can we go into, we were talking earlier on, there's different types of ADHD. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, we can. Let me just pull up my slide, because I will always forget what all of them are. I have a slide on my little computer. So there is this amazing doctor. So this is the route I've been going down. I've done 2 courses with him so far, and I'm currently doing just general brain health as a certified coach, because I think everyone needs to understand, the biggest organ that no one looks at. And so what he does is SPECT scans. So when I was listening to different things about medication, is it good, is it bad, I'm very clean living, and so I thought, well, I take vitamins. I don't like, if I've got a headache, I'd prefer to go to sleep and drink more water than I would to take a tablet. That's just the way I am, part of how I think. And so I was kind of exploring all of this, thinking, okay, is there other things apart from all the strategies that I've created that could be helping me, especially with my memory loss? Because, you know, it's like, even now in business, I try to not feel any shame or embarrassment that my executive function doesn't work. When you're in this environment, it needs to work, you know, so you're like, come on. But then with ADHD, when you put yourself under stress, you got no chance. Your brain has gone completely. So the 7 types of ADHD, there's classic ADD, there's inattentive ADD, there's over-focused ADD, there's temporal lobe ADD, limbic ADD, ring of fire ADD, and anxious ADD. And I needed to pull up that slide because I would never remember it. What I have remembered, because obviously it's interesting to me, is that I am over-focused and temporal lobe. And so this is normally what they do, is this is from a SPECT scan. So there are some in the UK. I've managed to speak to a couple of companies, but it's not something they do like for the general public. I'm still trying to find a provider, because the other alternative is you have to fly to the States. And I love Dr. Amen, I would love to, but that's, you know, it's different flying to the States and everything that's involved with all of that than just finding a provider in the UK. But what he's done, I think he's done 185,000 brain scans now. And you can clearly see with ADHD that there's 7 types. And then what goes from that, and what he's done, which I do with clients quite often, is I will do the 70-question ADHD 7 types test, and we'll be able to give them then a profile afterwards of what things can help them. So there are vitamins. So for me personally, and it is, I'm afraid people aren't going to like this very much, but it is elimination. So alcohol is eliminated, caffeine is eliminated, reducing sugar, if you can eliminate it completely, which is really hard in this day and age, especially if you're looking at children. But these, you know, there are things, and then there are certain things depending on which type you've got. So it might be that a high protein diet is better for your type of ADHD. So it's a bespoke kind of package afterwards, once we know, okay, now go in and try that. And so when it comes to like diet and making sure that sleep's a priority, and you know, how you're looking after yourself, like one of the things he always says is eat the food that you love, that loves you back.
Oh yeah, and to be aware of that.
Oh, I get goosebumps when I hear that, because it's just like, everyone thinks if you go and buy it from a supermarket that it's okay, and actually if you look at the history of food, most of it's not okay. And unfortunately most of us are unaware of that. So it's really interesting. So many people don't understand that there's actually 7 types. I would like, before I'm looking at medication now, I'm obviously working with somebody, and that is a possible option for me. I think it was Dr. Halliwell, who is also a master of his craft and a leader in the ADHD field. And he said about medication, because I was kind of really kind of close to it. I'm going down the natural route. I'm not going to be taking it. And he said something really interesting, like, you know, be a bit more open to all of the options. And when it comes to medication, and I'd literally just been told I had to have reading glasses, and he said, you know, if your child needed glasses, would you not then let them have their glasses? And so the medication, and I understand it comes with a lot of stigma and a lot of most of it misconceptions. So one being that it's addictive. Most ADHDers actually forget to take their medication. That's why it's so not addictive. If you get boys, some of the research that he shared was, if like, especially when I'm looking at my son and my daughter, if you get children under the age of 13, what the back and the front brains can start doing is building those neuro pathways, because the medication is doing it. And then because your brain is then actually developed in the way it should be developed, you know, there are so many cases of young people coming off medication, you know, late teens, early 20s, because the work's been done and now they can move forward without medication. So that's why there's some people have deemed it as, oh, they outgrow ADHD. No.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
No, they don't. It's just that they're given the medication that is required to get those neurons to start firing to each other. And then obviously once that, and we can talk about neuroplasticity and all those things that help get the brain to suddenly form the way it should form. And that's when they can come off the medication.
Yeah, because ADHD is not a behavioral problem as a lot of people perceive it to be. It's a neurological disorder in the brain.
Yeah, it is a disorder. I hate that word.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah,
it's not a good word for it, really. So
because there's a lot of good things like the creativity and the superpowers that come from this, you know.
Actually, there's two sides to that even. So the same thing can be kryptonite and it can be a superpower, like the same thing, like energy. So energy, like for me, I bounce around like Tigger, which is what some of my friends used to call me. They're like, where do you get this energy from? I'm like, how have you not got this energy? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously you do want to have but what comes with that is I can never, like, this is the longest I've sat down for a long time. Unless I have to, if I'm in the house, because I need that constant movement, I'm up. And that's why the distractions come in. So it's so much energy. I'm like, oh, I'll just quickly do that. And then before you know it, you've done 40 things that didn't really need to be done because you haven't been able to sit and focus because you've got so much energy and you need that movement.
You need to use it up.
So it's, it comes that packaged in the gift comes with the two elements, really.
Tell me about sleep, because I know a lot of people with ADHD have sleep problems. What has your experience been?
So for me, and that was interesting as well, I thought it was just due to stress. So I go through patterns. I can go to sleep, like I can hit a pillow and I'm gone within seconds. I always, and I didn't realize at the time, but it was repetitive, automatic, negative thoughts. So they're called rants. I've created that.
Repetitive, yes.
Yeah, but Dr. Amen calls them ants, just automatic negative.
Yeah, that's where I got that from.
But I'm like, no, they're repetitive, so that's why I call them rants.
Brilliant.
And so I didn't realise, because of the ADHD, this is what was going on, and my symptoms were really acute. I thought I was just having a moment, because I've had highs and lows throughout my life where I just got to the point where I couldn't cope, didn't know why I couldn't cope. And then I would be very tearful. A couple of times depression has been no one's ever diagnosed me with depression. I've never been put on medication because I'm like, I'm not depressed. I'm just finding it really hard at this moment in time.
Big difference.
Yeah, totally different. So I was like, I'm not. And I kept thinking, that it's just like a chemical imbalance. Is a bit like having a vitamin. And I was like, yeah, but I know, when you know.
Yeah.
And so my friend gave me an amazing meditation and I listened to that every night. But what was happening, and there's been patterns, and I go through cycles, and what I'm trying to do, even, I know this is a bit woo-woo, but I'm part of my friends group, a moon group, looking at the external energy and how that affects me biologically, just to see what that has in play. But I will go for weeks of going to bed. I go fairly early because I get up at 4 every morning. I like to have an early morning. I know, I like to do them.
Too early for me.
Oh, no, I love it. Absolutely love it. So I get up and I do my meditation, which is obviously amazing for ADHD. And I journal and I start my day, the first time, especially with mothers, you get up and do, the first thing you do is for you,
Yes.
Probably you have a meditate. It's amazing. So I like to do that. So I do have a regular bedtime in the evening, but literally I'm spent with the ADHD because you're expelling so much. By 4 o'clock, normally I'm not really good for conversation, or I'm kind of doing what needs to be done. I'm in mum mode, and that's kind of where I'm at. And so what happens is every now and then I will suddenly wake up at like 1:30 in the morning, and that's it. That's me up. Can't go back to sleep. So I have one evening, because originally when it first started happening, I thought, no, this is ridiculous. I do need to go back to sleep. The kids are going to be up really early. I'm not going to manage. I'm working. And so I think I've listened to that meditation about 4 times before I did manage to go back to sleep. But then I got to the point where I thought, I'm not going to fight it anymore. I didn't know it was ADHD, but I thought what I do know is I'm really creative at 1:30 in the morning. So I'm just going to get some stuff done. So that's when I do lots of work, and then sometimes go back to sleep at 3, or sometimes just not bother and go to bed early. And then it won't happen again for a really long time.
I want to ask you that. Yeah. It's just once. It's an odd time that this would happen for you.
Yeah, but it can happen for like 3, 4, maybe 5 nights in a row, and then it stops again, and then. Well,
you mentioned earlier on about the stimulants, the caffeine, the sugar, the alcohol, and that's really important. And this caffeine is in so many, like even chocolate. It's in chocolate. Caffeine, and kids love chocolate. And sugar is in, God, there's so many hidden sugars in our food. It's in yogurt drinks even, and and we think we're doing good for our children. There's like sugar. So I think really we need to do our research. And you're right, the foods have really diminished over the years, and that the soil has been depleted of minerals, and even the bacteria. We need to have good microbiome. All of these things, like really, making just being sensible about your clean living, as you say. And that definitely is a must before you go anywhere else, So it's really interesting just to hear your story about how you're sleeping at nighttime, and how about your kids? Have they ever had any kind of problems with sleep themselves as children?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. And I was doing a bit more research on the sleep side of things. Aidan went through a few pockets of not being able to go to sleep, and he was quite distressed because he's normally like me, hits the pillow and he's gone. So he had, there's been quite a few nights over the last sort of 3 years where he would have listened to the meditation that I've got. My daughter did the same. She was having quite a lot of stress and anxiety. Didn't understand why, and that affected her sleep. There is something called revenge procrastination. Oh gosh,
you'll have to send it to me for the show notes.
I will. Oh gosh. Basically, and so when I look at different friends and how things manifest for them with their sleep. So basically what it means is, with one friend, she would dip at kind of lunchtime, have to have a sleep, but then she'd keep going until 2 in the morning because she didn't want to go to bed either. So that's what it is. My husband definitely has it. And my other friend has it, where she's like, why would I want to go to bed? Like, that's like, everyone else has gone to bed. This is my time. And I'm like, I can't think of anything worse, staying up all night. Yeah, but it's actual condition and something that's part of ADHD. Literally you'll look at the clock, it's 10 o'clock at night, and then you look again and it's 2, because obviously we've got time blindness as well. We don't feel time. There's only now or not now. There's nothing in between.
And part of one of the things with ADHD in my own research is it can really disrupt the circadian rhythm, the clocks, the timings, as you say. And it's interesting, when you talked about your friend, it been creative time and wanting to have our own space and be on our own. I really get that. Because God, when do you, especially when you've got a load of kids or whatever, busy lifestyle, having that space on your own is like golden, And speaking of golden, I love what you said about, you getting up first thing in the morning and having your group of women doing your meditation. And I call that a power hour or a golden hour, because I think it's really important that we set ourselves up, that we empower ourselves, that we're doing things for ourselves. I love when you said that.
Yeah,
that's so important, because for many people, and mobile phones and technology screens are a big problem in our society at the moment, really impacts sleep, and it's a stimulant for the brain as well, which probably wouldn't help people with ADHD as well, probably having to limit that. But it can really stimulate the brain. And what was I saying? But having that golden hour, you're actually doing something for yourself rather than responding to other people's requests. So like first thing in the morning, people reach for their phone and they're checking their email, their social media, all of this kind of thing. And you're actually giving your power away. And people don't realize that, and we want to set ourselves up for the day and really empower ourselves. So I'm really glad that you said that. It's a really important part of starting off your day as well. And helping you have less stress and been able to sleep better at night time as well. So we're coming near the end of the show, Joe. Is there any other points or topics that you want to I think we've covered everything. We spoke about the 7 different types of ADHD. Dr. Eamon, so we'll put a link up for Dr. Eamon and Dr. Halliwell, is it? Halliwell?
Yeah, Dr. Ned Halliwell. He did Driven to Distraction as one of his best books, and ADHD 2.0 is amazing.
Okay, great.
So much information.
We put all them resources in the show notes, because I think what you're doing, Joe, is absolutely fantastic. You know, you're empowering yourself, you're driven, and you want to know who you are and create that profile of yourself. And you have a course you mentioned. What's that all about? Is it a course?
So literally, I do sessions, and I'm trying to make it evergreen. One of my other biggest passions ever, and that's what you'll find with ADHD, is most entrepreneurs are ADHD and most ADHDers are entrepreneurs. It just goes hand in hand. So I decided when we were going to have children, it was like, I'm not going to work, but obviously we're going to live on one wage and blah, blah, blah. And of course, my ADHD brain was like, So I started creating little income streams. So passive income has been a massive passion of mine. I work with an amazing business strategist who helps me with everything to do with that. And so at the moment, I'm trying to do a bit of both, because some people, especially with ADHD, you'll say you're going to do it. You know what you're going to do. You just don't do it. So body doubling is fantastic. So sometimes people will pay to have a session with me. I've managed to get them just at £27. So they're really low sessions. But within that session, we spend the time going through the workbook and building your profile, so that when you go to the doctor, you go from confusion to clarity and confidence. That's what the sessions do. And then you go armed with your information. Doesn't matter what they say, you know, because it's you.
That, Joe.
You're the expert in you. And so just my message to everyone is, you just need to be more of you, whatever you is, because you're unique. And just, we do have challenges, but once you can scaffold them with the skills and the support and the strategies that you know you need, because you've explored it and you've been honest with yourself and or a coach, if you've got an ADHD coach, then you can then really lean into your strengths, and whatever that is, whether you're in a job or you want to create another income or whatever it is. But the creativity is the biggest gift of ADHD.
Yes.
And finding out what your purpose is and your inner spark, and then coming to a place where you're able to earn from that by helping, like me, I ADHD, but I'm very specific on the work that I do. So I kind of do that, and I'm building them as I go along, and covering all of the challenges, but all the workbooks have the solutions that go with it that you can explore. So, and you know, it's, what will work for me may not work for you, because we're individuals.
It's all about exploring it and discovering for yourself and finding who you are. And I love what you said, because, you know, when we have that clarity, as you say, and we bring that to the doctor, because it is a medical condition. So this whole interview here is information only. Neither of us are medical doctors.
No,
I have to say that. So this is really purely an informational conversation, just to help empower people to discover who they are with all the resources we're going to give, and through your own experience. And, you know, we're all different, as you say, Joe, we all have our own unique experience. But I love the part about creativity, because I think that's what's missing in a lot of people, is that creativity spark, because that's what creates possibilities in our lives, and it creates change. And a lot of people are afraid of change, and we're living in the same old world of conditioning from the past, even generational. So it's exciting in a sense, Joe, really, I think, and to have that creativity and to see it. And that's the superpower I see in this. So, Joe, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any other empowering thoughts that we can end on today?
You know, we can decide if this is a problem and a challenge, or if we want to actually embrace it. It's mindset. And there are so many people out there that can help you just reframe something. In fact, it's quite interesting. I've been working, I'm going tonight to my son's football team and going to spend some time with them, because one of the things that coaches, again, they're not trained in, they can recognize different behaviors in boys, but they're not trained. But one of the things that affects everybody on the planet is mindset. So I'm being brought in to do some mindset work. So automatically the coaches are aware. Definitely, I've been very open and said he's not diagnosed, but he has got ADHD and it will manifest itself. And what they're finding with Aidan is he's not angry with anybody else, because that's not who he is. He's the biggest hearted young man you'll ever meet. He's so kind. The other thing ADHD have is we have a massive sense of justice and what's fair. So if it's not fair for somebody else, we'll speak up. We're the ones that get into trouble for sticking up for everybody else. So that's my son as well. He's, you know, he radiates this sense of justice. But when he's trying to do something and can't do it, he gets really frustrated with himself and he'll kick a ball away. Yeah. And so two of the coaches don't understand that much. So they think it's him being, you know, just a kind of spoiled. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas there's another coach that I've known for a really long time, who's known my son since he was 5, because they played in a different team. And he's like, no, that is not who that young man is. I know him. I know, I've spent weeks with him. I know he's not like that. So from that conversation, they're now bringing me in to talk to all of the boys about mindset, about how the brain works, about how our emotions work, and how if we go in and we have our rant because we've let a ball in or we didn't score or whatever, we're now a player down. You're letting not just you're letting your team down. So what you have to do is say nice things to yourself, be kind to yourself, self-compassion. You're either coming from a place of love or a place of fear. When you don't know, you're in fear. So just be kind to yourself and understand we're all different and we all bring something to the party. And that's what makes us exciting and unique. And that's really, it's just about acceptance. And if we can spread more of that, we're all more alike than people would like to think. You know, definitely people without ADHD, because of technology and things like that, they are having similar symptoms of distracted and can't focus and feeling overwhelmed because of technology impacting how their brain works. It's called FAST. Something that Dr. Halliwell talks about. So
what's it called? Say that again.
It's called FAST. It looks like ADHD, but it's not. Please don't ask me to explain what the...
No, I'll look it up. I'm curious.
But I can send you a link. But yeah, so basically there are lots of people having similar things. The difference with ADHD is it has a detrimental effect on your life. And so when it does, in different periods of your life, like the menopause or when you have your first child, these are times where it's really common for women to be diagnosed, if they are.
Because the symptoms are presenting themselves even more.
Yeah, because suddenly, definitely hormones have a part to play, but suddenly you're managing you and to as best as you can. And now suddenly there's 3 of you. Or 4 of you.
Overwhelming.
And then suddenly it's just a tsunami of everything, of not being able to organize. Or clutter is another thing that affects. So I create piles of paperwork. So that's my clutter thing.
I love it. Joe, you spoke about reframing, having a different perspective, bringing fun into it. And when we understand all these things, we can actually have a laugh about it. We can see the funny side in it, really. Do you know what I mean? And this raises our vibration up, it raises up our energy. So it enables us to continue to see the fun in it and to be more in our power and to come from a place of love rather than fear, as you say. So that's what I got out of all of what you just said. And it really is crucial to understand. And I love the work you're doing. I love that you're doing the mindset work with all the kids. And, you know, it's just a fantastic opportunity for kids, because I don't believe they get that in schools really as much as they really need to, you know. I really believe that children need more of that, you know, being in touch with their emotions, to be able to be self-expressive and say how they're feeling and understand who they are. I don't think there's enough of that been taught in the school or been practiced. So I really admire you, Joe. We're going to wrap it up here now. I really admire you, and I just want to acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing. And do stay in touch. Send me some more links, anything that you have at all. We put it all into the show notes. I think the information that you've provided us with us today is super, super important, and it can really help go a long way, helping parents and people who have ADHD and their children to really understand it so much better, put a different light and perspective on it, and to bring fun and to really embrace the creativity that it brings as well. So Joe, thank you so much for today, and have a wonderful day yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off, or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Take care.